that's really kind of the manifestation of this idea that for agents, this is the easiest way to do commerce. And we already saw we have like 1.8K jobs posted, or 1.9K. There's 82 agents in like this few days. People are like posting, bidding. There's more features coming.
Really going to have to focus in on how to make sure it all stays private. Otherwise, we could have a very nasty situation where massive amounts of personal data is just out there for not just the data giants, but like anyone who'd want to kind of harvest and exploit.
So ZK Stark's an example of that, and you have a bunch of signatures. There are other variants that use lattices, but you just replace everything with hashes, which you can.
What do you see as the path to getting to internet native micropayments?
How relevant should we be taking this concern when it comes to the financial aspects of this now?
Welcome back to AI Supercycle, our premier AI show, airing every single week, presented by Near. We cover the ins and outs of decentralized AI, privacy, and the future of this massive technology.
Near is the blockchain for AI and the execution of AI native apps. You can check out Near's latest AI product at near.ai. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Building IronClaw, which is the privacy protecting OpenClaw.
There we go. IronClaw is coming live.
Just announced it live.
Guys, AI Supercycle episode number 20. Welcome back to our show, our weekly AI show, powered by our friends at Near. Today, we're talking about the future of agents, privacy, and intent on chain. We've got Illia from Near, we've got Joel of Dash, and we'll soon have Ellie from Starknet breaking down the latest and greatest in the space. Illia, Joel, welcome, guys.
Thanks for having me.
I think, Illia, what you said at the top of the show is a great place to start. We had George on last week. He ran us through the entire chronology of ClaudeBot to Moltbot to OpenClaw. OpenClaw had a ton of security vectors that people were starting to exploit API keys as a result of hooking these things up to open source software. George took us all the way through, but there's been even more development since our episode last week. Could you just now introducing IronClaw?
IronClaw.
What is IronClaw?
So I mean, as you said, right, there's I think Kevin Owocki, right, posted that it took 2 or 3 days for his effectively all the credentials to leak from his agent running. Like, we are kind of the AI people are learning about the dark forest of internet in a hard way. That if you if you open up your system, then there will be attackers. The good thing is, in blockchain, we've been living in this world since the beginning, and so we have experience dealing with this. And so one of the things that I kind of been prototyping, and we have like few more people starting to contribute now, is all right. Well, if we take the blockchain mindset, if we take this like adversarial mindset, how would you design a system that's still able to do effectively anything on your behalf? And so that's the idea behind IronClaw. It's effectively a agentic harness that is designed for security, meaning all the credentials never touch LLM or tools. Like, they effectively isolated. They are domain bound. So your IronClaw will never give credentials to a domain that this credential doesn't belong to. Right? If you have your Telegram ID, it's never gonna go to a non-telegram.com domain. Right? Mm-hmm. Simple things like that, but effectively avoiding a whole slew of security issues. Similarly, if you're running arbitrary code, it should run in Sandbox. And if you're running tools, they should be running in a virtualized environment. So it uses WebAssembly, which is what Near uses for smart contracts. Effectively, every tool becomes, you can think of it as smart contract. All the credentials management is isolated. This is our, think of it as chain signatures, like control plane that we use on Near Intents already. So it really, like, in many ways, mimics what we've been building with Near blockchain, Near Intents, Near chain signatures on the AI stack. And then it uses our Near AI private inference, confidential inference, and anonymized inference if you want to use Opus, OpenAI, etc. as well. So it kind of has this full stack together, ensures privacy, ensures security. Obviously, still a lot of work, right? It's it's only been like 4 or 5 days of development, but it's pretty exciting. And the idea is to get it to a level where it can build its own tools, kind of as quick as anyone can prompt it with requests.
Yeah.
Yes. And Illia, just to really put this into perspective, last week George was telling us about how we can run using Near, we can run OpenClaw, which is the open source Claude bot implementation. We can run it in a TEE using Near, and we can use private inference, which is part of what you guys built with this private chat Near AI product. Tell us, like, what is the step function from not just OpenClaw in a TEE using Near AI, like the step function that takes us to IronClaw?
The kind of what we've released, I guess top of the beginning of the last week, these things are moving quick, was, like, hey, you can take OpenClaw, which is this open source framework, you can host it inside the secure environment, which means we cannot see what's going on there, right? Only the kind of users that started it. So effectively, this is user-owned AI. This is your AI. And you use kind of private inference, so there's nobody can actually access, stop, etc. How you're using AI. Now, the challenge is OpenClaw itself, as we've seen, has a lot of issues, security vulnerabilities, prompt injections, etc. And so IronClaw really levels up that to now you can trust this AI to effectively not leak your data, to be on your side, right? And that's kind of what we've been trying to bring together to market as user-owned AI, is really AI you can trust to be on your side, not be on somebody else's side, right? Or be susceptible to manipulations. And so think of it as your guardian angel in the digital space.
I think we're gonna get Illia up here, Ellie up here now. Welcome, Ellie. I was explaining the idea of prompt injections to a friend yesterday who was kind of getting involved in AI. He took a break from e-commerce and started to get involved, and I was explaining how that works through OpenClaw and the functionality capabilities, and he was pretty blown away. But again, Illia, as you mentioned, like, we're used to it, right? You don't put your seed phrase in places in blockchain. You don't, click on links, but that's starting to kind of come about. So let's get into some of the privacy conversation. Ellie, welcome to the show. Joel, obviously here as well, guys. Big activists in the privacy, space, ZK, Starks, Dash, etc. Guys, how do you think about this last, week in the agentic world on chain with regards to privacy? How are you thinking about this evolution of agentic commerce as it pertains to this Claude bot, Near's IronClaw, and just building out agentic systems on chain where there's a clear product market fit? But there's this massive, massive gap here in, the user ownership capability as well as the privacy of user data. How do you all think about the current problem space as it exists? Maybe Ellie, you can start.
I would say that, like, everything related to AI, if you think about AI, blockchain, and ZK, then at least to me, it's just trying to drink from a fire hose. There's so much going on. Every week that passes, there's new capabilities. I myself, Illia is, of course, one of the OGs, inventors of the technology that underpins AI. So he probably understands this way better than I do. I'm just a very late oncomer consumer. But there's tremendous opportunity to be had here. Blockchain is extremely well suited for AI and agentic because you don't have KYC, you don't need the people to sign off on stuff. So there's a lot of opportunity. And of course, just like when people transact, also when you have your agent transacting, you probably want to have privacy alongside good functionality, high security. This will emerge, but we're in very exciting early days of this. That's as much as I can say.
I think one thing to keep in mind as we're taking the blockchain elements and the financial elements and the AI elements and kind of putting them all together is what the agentic economy looks like as it operates on chain, and why blockchain is the proper fit for an agentic economy. Illia, I think last week it was already possible to connect OpenClaw to Near intents. And so that gives these OpenClaw implementations sort of a multi-chain capacity. Tell us a little bit about how you see the agentic economy evolving and why blockchain is so important for the agentic economy?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think definitely doubling down on what Ali said, right? These agents, they need an easy API to access everything, and existing banking, existing commercial relationships. Imagine this agent negotiating contracts over email, right? That's probably not the most effective way for their operations. So actually, last week as well, we launched Agentic Marketplace. So this is really building on the idea of intents. This is actually something we talked about at Redacted around DEF CON in 24, where the idea is actually the intent is really the outcome you want to achieve, right? And so you can say like, hey, I want this website to be built, or I want this field to be seeded, or I want this building to be constructed, and you can send it to this like intent engine, right? Order matching book, and then other agents can come in and say, cool, I'll actually do it for this much, it will take this long, here's the requirements, here's the conditions, here's maybe some qualifiers. And so you can actually have this agreement, have the funds escrowed, do the construction, do the seeding, do the work, and then resolve it, right? And so we launched effectively the alpha version of this agentic marketplace. It works with Cloud Code, OpenClaw, Codex, and similar frameworks. You literally just paste the skill of the marketplace, and your agent now knows how to post jobs and how to do jobs. It all runs on blockchain because you need escrow, you need the ability to easily kind of come into those financial commercial agreements. And so that's really kind of the manifestation of this idea that for agents, this is the easiest way to do commerce. And we already saw we have like 1.8K jobs posted, or 1.9K. There's 82 agents in like this few days. People are like posting, bidding. There's more features coming. So really excited to see this kind of starting to pick up. And kind of we see this as like, hey, they actually don't care about using dollars, so they're using Near as a currency because it's easier. But users can deposit any currency through Near intents as a way to really accept anything into it. So kind of agentic economy really, starting to take place because this model's just gotten so much better at understanding context and getting things done. And then you can imagine your agent running there and then comes to you and says like, hey, you person needs to go and do this job because I signed up for it. And we got to get paid this much. So I think they're going to be an interesting, exciting, like, what TaskRabbit and similar kind of products, gig economies before, like we're actually going to see this expanding a lot more, where literally a construction company will receive an email from an agent saying, hey, how much would it take to actually build something? Let's get, I have already contracts, it will set it up, and then we'll, satisfy it on the agent marketplace.
Yeah. It's very funny. The first conference that Andy and I went to, it was in DC, and they were talking about blockchain a lot. And there was a hackathon, and we came up with this idea of essentially a place where there was this democratized network of contributors, and you could bid on like a local person fixing something, or a national person entity to end up filling this bid. We didn't know it was intense at the time. We just kind of thought like, okay, this is the right way to structure work. You wouldn't have some, contractor at a national level fixing a pothole on the street that you fix, you go over every day. And so we're seeing things emerge both locally and globally. And this has created this like massive security vector of privacy to potentially exploit, these API keys. Joel, I want to loop you in here, both on the agentic side as well as on the financial side. Privacy has become a pillar. Just talk to us of how you think privacy is going to continue to shape. Illia's done work now on IronClaw to kind of protect more of these APIs, but do you see any more holes? Like, where should we be focusing from a privacy point of view?
That's an interesting question, and there's no real good answer other than everywhere, right? Because I think that we really underestimate just how much data leakage happens in our day-to-day kind of commercial, just the average person in their day-to-day online activity. Now, if you start adding an agent that kind of goes wild with your private information, and doesn't necessarily have that same privacy mindset as you might have, then there's a whole lot of extra things you need to sort of like block off there to make sure it doesn't just, divulge just about everything out there. And I think that one of those things, like blockchain, is a perfect marriage for the agentic world, of course, because um, you don't have this whole, banking personhood KYC kind of bottleneck behind everything. It's just digital cash for the new age that just works. Now, unfortunately, most cryptocurrencies over the entire history of the space have had massive privacy issues, combined with the fact that everything is on a very public, easily accessible blockchain database where you can just sort of look up everything and find out statistical patterns. And so it's basically a data mine dream slash nightmare, depending on who you're thinking is looking at this, that's just sort of out there to be harvested, especially as AI models get a lot better at being able to just sift through this data, find kind of maybe make Google blush from data collection standpoint. So it is something that as we start to move this into our lives, as we start to give agents a lot more ability to make purchases and other activities on our behalf, we're really going to have to focus in on how to make sure it all stays private. Otherwise, we could have, a very nasty situation where massive amounts of personal data is just out there for, not just the data giants, but like anyone who'd want to kind of harvest and exploit.
Not your keys, not your coins. From the team that pioneered cold storage, Trezor has just released its new wallet. Guys, if you are still using hot wallets in 2025, 2026, you are missing the entire point. Secure your coins. Get a Trezor at trezor.io.
YEET is built for big moments. The most fun you'll ever have with your crypto. Go to yeet.com to yeet into your next game.
Yeah, Elliot, I'm curious from the Starknet and Starkware perspective, how you guys are thinking about agentic commerce on chain, right? So I think that you guys have a very highly performant chain, and we're expecting agent to agent payments probably next year. I think we're getting close right now with this kind of Clawbot implementation, but this idea of agentic commerce actually happening on chain at scale. I'm curious, like what you think the requirements are for a blockchain to actually enable that, and just like generally how you're thinking about transitioning from mostly humans interacting on Starknet to actually mostly agentic entities operating on chain.
Right. So that's a terrific question. I'll say that right now, it's just very, very first step. So it's even hard for us to agree on what's going to happen. Initially, I think what's already happening is that more and more of our, let's say, economic and financial agency will move over to, AI and bots, and we'll have bots, let's say, investing on our behalf and stuff like that. From the point of view of blockchain, then, because blockchain doesn't really separate between humans and, and bots, it's all, as long as you have wallets with keys. So there, I think that what's going to matter is you want a lot of like good DeFi and investment opportunities along with high throughput and low costs. So in that sense, I think obviously Starknet is one of the best things for that, but there'll be others as well. Down the line, I think an interesting thing that will start to emerge is you would want agents to be proving various things about their reasoning, the way they use the models. You want integrity in the things that they're doing. And then we'll see another wave of applications in which blockchains are used to enforce integrity on agents running. So for instance, if my bot invests alongside your bot, I would like to know that the investments are based on you following the model that you have, which may be proprietary. So that's another line of applications that we'll probably see emerging on Starknet. But I think that at least initially, basically, from the point of view of blockchain, there is no difference between humans and AI. So as long as you are comfortable entrusting your AI with your keys and your funds, we'll just see this activity emerging on Starknet and then on other blockchains as well. But again, I would defer to Illia, who probably is, certainly a bigger expert than me on this thing. I will just mention this, that like, I think first of all, Near are trailblazing and, one of the best projects there, and have embraced AI for blockchain probably before anyone else. We're very happy with our collaboration with them. Now you can basically do a whole bunch of things connecting between Zcash, Solana, Near, and Starknet, or, you can bridge over assets, speaking or talking to your Near-based agents. And that's a lovely collaboration that I'm very proud of. So, thank you, Illia and the team, for making this happen.
Yeah, Illia, anything to add there as far as kind of specs for chains, how this kind of embracing of agentic users, if you will, or entities will come in?
Yeah, I mean, just completely agree. The idea with what we were building with Intents was like, how do we enable all of those chains to be easily usable by agents, right? And then it kind of was as a side effect, it made it easier for humans. Yeah, I mean, it's already exciting to see. I mean, as Eli mentioned, right, like there's a ton of collaborations happening, really enabling kind of easy way for people to move around, to interface with assets, and then now kind of deeper applications. We have quite a few things like lined up actually for NearCon in a couple of weeks on this as well. But indeed, it's like as people, like I think like DeFi historically being like a very niche thing because it's very complicated. And sometimes it always almost felt like people wanted to be complicated because, like there's in crypto, there's like tribalism that, we want people to stay here, to be here, to commit to this complexity. Like the farming was a thing, right? It's like you needed to put effort to make money. And I think the agents are going to make it easier and easier, where it's like, it's proactive, it's able to help you execute these actions. And, we with chain abstraction, we're really kind of creating tools to make that happen easily and create a control plane to coordinate that. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be just accelerating from here. Like all the tools.
Yeah, Illia, do you think agents will care about the chain? Like, do you think chain abstraction becomes more real with agentic entities?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, what agents need is really simple API to access everything, right? They don't you don't want to pollute your context with like a lot of complex stuff as well. So you want simple API and you want to access everything. So I think for agents, chain abstraction is because they don't have like a tribalism, like, hey, I have bags in whatever, so I'm going to use that wallet or something, right? They're just going to be like, cool, I need an easy API that, I don't need to like calculate gas prices in like volatile currencies on different chains at all times and pre-bridge stuff, right? And so that's really what, again, Near Intents were kind of designed for from the start.
And I just a broader comment about, AI generally is not just chain abstraction, but they're like software abstractions as well. Like the AI agent, like it's not going to go on different chains. It's not really going to care. It's also not going to, really care about hopping from this SaaS platform to that SaaS platform as long as it has access to the two. The agent becomes the level of abstraction where all the action happens. Illia, I'm just curious, like where you think we go from here, even if you don't want to give away more than Near roadmap, like just conceptually, what are some of the developments that you think we should be prepared for?
Yeah, I mean, I think we already see the market is starting to reprice SaaS, right? So like to what you just described is people don't expect the SaaS to be priced the same way. The software itself, I mean, honestly, like the amount of features and capabilities you can launch now is just accelerating. And so I think they're going to be like a kind of a split where some people who are really harvesting this agentic kind of ecosystem and doing it well, and there's some people who are either afraid, cannot, etc. And so I think that split is also going to start becoming like very visible on like kind of market cap, whatever, and even GDP potentially of countries. And so I think that would be a pretty fundamental split. But at the same time, again, I think the whole point of this outcome-based economy, I think we're going to see a lot of the I call it middlemen. Like a lot of the businesses are there because they're effectively just repackaging something. Like they're kind of making, hey, we're gonna order a bunch of stuff from China, put it into this warehouse, and then somebody else will like buy it from us and put it in Walmart, etc. Like a lot of this will start disappearing because your agents can go directly, right? They can go scan every Chinese factory. It has a Chinese model, it can speak Chinese perfectly, right? And so it can get all of that negotiation done. It can literally email and have the email conversation with the, and it will be a purchasing agent on the other side, which may be a human right now, but it will be AI, tomorrow. So I think we'll see a lot of this like transformation happening across the board. And yeah, I mean, we're here for it. We've been building the infrastructure for this for the past, since we started Near. But yeah, excited to see all of this coming together. And as you see, it's moving fast.
Anything to add there, Joel?
Yeah, pretty much. It's going to be very fascinating to see as we have this big like transfer over to the way the new world is going here. I think that crypto's been around for 17 years or so now, and still very few people on the grand scheme of things even use it. And before you know it, a large part of the economy is going to be just radically different. Like our parents or grandparents, the kinds of money they use, the kinds of ways they purchase, all that is going to be completely different. And I think there's a whole new. What I would just say is we have to embrace the future here, but also be prepared for a bumpy kind of ride as we run into a lot of issues we never ever dreamed of having, even today, or definitely 5, 10, 20 years ago, that we're going to start to run into. And of course, there will be lots of FUD and things about, oh my gosh, privacy leak, or this rogue agent went out and just like bought up all the ground meat supply and sent it to a different country, and now there's a massive supply issue. There will be things like that along the way that we just have to make sure to really insulate ourselves for. But it's one of those things where if we're not kind of ready, we're not ready to, for example, safeguard our privacy and our own self-custody, et cetera, today, that it's going to be very rough for us maybe as individuals in the future. And I would just sort of leave in that I think that self-custody is obviously the underpinning of all of crypto, and at the same time, custody solutions are nowhere near where they need to be for this level of importance in our lives. For like a digital cash wallet, maybe they are, but if it's like your identity system, all your money, all your authentication that goes into all your army of agents, the recovery mechanisms for that, the security mechanisms are kind of like nascent. They're not really where they need to be right now. And that's something that I think that we really need to start figuring out and standardizing across the whole space over the next couple of years.
A quick question on that is IronClaw ready to confidentially handle a private key?
Give it another week. I mean, we're working toward it, and we'll give you a one-click button to get it started and interact with it. So,
yeah, I think a week is totally reasonable. These things are moving so quickly. That's a very, very reasonable pace to ship. Hibachi is fast and private perps trading, secured by ZK with Celestia underneath. Go to hibachi.xyz to start trading today.
Looking for yield that stands out? infiniFi gives you just that. Deposit stablecoins and earn far more than the current savings rate. infiniFi is a battle-tested, reliable DeFi platform that is ready to go. Head to infinifi.xyz.
Another question here, definitely more broad, and I'm actually curious if it's even relevant, but I figured here's the place to ask. Obviously Bitcoin took a tumble. There's a variety of different reasons why, but one of them is just growing fears around quantum. I think people might be thinking that because AI is accelerating at the pace that it is, AI will help us reach quantum sooner. Is there any credence to this claim? Do you guys do you also see quantum as a looming thing? How relevant should we be taking this concern when it comes to the financial aspects of this now?
Okay, I'll try to answer this. So yeah, quantum is looming in two ways. One is we'll see more, people are predicting there'll be more progress on this. Whether AI helps or not, I think it's just like with all of science, right? Because right now, the problem is not so much with the fundamentals of quantum mechanics is this engineering problem of can we, make it happen with all the error correction and noise reduction and stuff like that. So AI will help the same way it helps all of physics and computer science and biology and whatever. But the more imminent thing looming from quantum is basically, can crypto adapt fast enough? Because and here I think a lot of eyes are on Bitcoin, but others as well. Can Ethereum basically, can we get our shit together quickly enough to make the changes needed or to have a plan for a plan? And I think the only way we can have the public sleep, rest assured that everything's fine, is if we actually show that we are doing a lot of stuff about it. So I think, ZK Starks happen to be post-quantum secure, and Starknet is post-quantum secure, and we are making steps to make sure that, we have enough primitives in place that folks can basically adapt their wallets to it. But I'm very concerned about, Bitcoin, to a lesser extent Ethereum, but also this is something we need to address very seriously.
Ellie, quick follow-up on that, and at a high level, maybe, just concise if possible. How do you make something quantum, like post-quantum secure?
It's very easy. You throw away the number theoretic constructions. So they're very convenient because they have very short keys. They're not that efficient in terms of computation. So you have to get rid of things like RSA, elliptic curve cryptography, Diffie-Hellman, and you replace them with things based on, mostly on hashes. So ZK Starks are an example of that, and you have a bunch of signature schemes. There are other variants that use lattices, but you just replace everything with hashes, which you can. So that's roughly it. You throw away the number theoretic stuff, like RSA, you bring in hash-based stuff, and there are a bunch of constructions. It's really just a matter of, implementing all of this, making the wallets, the ledgers, the hardware wallet, the protocols accept these things. Just one more word on this. So, on Starknet, all accounts, we have native account abstraction, which means, you can basically pick whatever signing method you want. With things like Bitcoin and Ethereum, it's more complicated because you have enshrined cryptographic protocols that need to be kicked out and replaced. So it's a bit more tricky, but that's my concern.
Got it. Appreciate that.
Joel, anything to add there on the quantum side?
Yeah. Obviously, this is not my personal area of expertise, so take anything I say with a grain of salt. But from all that I've heard of, it seems like it's one of those big things looming over the space where I haven't heard expert consensus on exactly how soon or how far out this is. There's a lot of people saying, it's 20 plus years. Some people saying 3 years, and to where it becomes an actual threat. And so it's also one of those things where I have heard of some post-quantum cryptographic schemes being kind of broken through more traditional means as well. So it's definitely one of those things where getting it right and getting it at the right time is an incredibly tricky thing sort of to do, as well as a lot of to speak of Bitcoin in particular, I do feel very, I guess, nervous about Bitcoin in this case, because one thing is when you change cryptographic schemes, sometimes you end up having to incur a much higher data cost as far as is concerned. And Bitcoin did never increase the block size past 1 base megabyte. And how are you going to upgrade to a post-quantum cryptographic scheme? And then how are you going to manage that as a community, just from a political standpoint, not even from a technical standpoint of how are you going to say, well, now we're going to do so much extra data on chain because we have to. And then, well, do we then restrict the block size to 300 kilobytes? What do we do? It's going to be, especially for cryptocurrencies like mostly Bitcoin, I should say, which have sort of made a career of decades out of not changing, out of not doing anything significant. This is one of the most significant changes that's going to have to happen. And just how are you going to handle just being in establish consensus quickly mode, figure things out, move quickly on things, and move decisively and upgrade? And then what else is going to be upgraded at the same time? It's going to be a very uncertain time.
Yeah, it's almost like ossification as a business strategy, which I know that Ellie is, I'm not sure, as much of a fan of as other Bitcoiners are. But guys, let's close out here with something around the X402 conversation. Illia, I'm curious to get your perspective on this idea of internet native micropayments. I think this is another really, really interesting and fascinating area where blockchain and crypto rails become a non-negotiable for the future of agentic payments. Where are we at with the state of these standards like X402, and kind of what do you see as the path to getting to internet native micropayments? And then I'm curious to hear from Ellie as well before he goes, and then we can close out here.
Yeah, I mean, X402 was proposed, I think, mid last year. We were one of the launch partners as well. And it totally makes sense that if you're using APIs, right now, some human needs to go sign up on some website, add a credit card, get API key, then give it to agent, and then agent goes, nuts. But then it's also like the agent itself doesn't see the bill properly. It's not able to monitor and manage that. And so if agent marketplace is able to make money, it cannot actually use this money to pay for its APIs that it uses as a consumer. So it totally makes sense that like you want to have, the same account agent is able to pay and earn. It's able to pay for APIs, including for its own inference and other things. Now, 402, for those who are not familiar, was originally an HTTP spec, right, back in 90 something. And so it just was never implemented, was never used. It was literally payment required kind of code that never was used by anyone. And so the idea was like, hey, why don't we use that actually for real, create a specification around it, and now people are able to pay for things directly HTTP request. Now, there is some, I would say, like, there's a lot to be built to make this protocol truly useful. There's things like session keys, etc., that are missing right now. It's actually like every request requires kind of payment, and so lots of work is being done across the ecosystem to improve that. But I think fundamentally the idea that, hey, the agents should be able to sign up and use things without needing to, call up a human to do this, right, totally makes sense. And crypto is the only way to actually facilitate that. And on top of this, like crypto, again, this is where we figured out how to do Sybil resistant and other kind of conceptual things that, for example, Maltbook right now is dealing with, right? Somebody just went and created 1 million agents, like, with a single script, because they haven't really thought about like what is a Sybil resistance here, what is like identity solution for the agents, etc. So all of this is like, yeah, I mean, I think, again, I see agents right now just like hitting all of the things that crypto been thinking about. And the only real challenge is that crypto has such a bad reputation. And honestly, all of the stuff that's happening on the internet right now is not helping, right? Everybody's launching the meme tokens and then, dropping them on creator and then telling creator, why did he rename the project? They lost the money. It's like all of that is not honestly helping with this. But I think like we kind of need to really like punch through that and deliver real value to the kind of developers and users, and that will prevail.
Yeah, Ellie, on internet native
So I think this new standard is really, really good for those networks that don't have native account abstraction and things like Paymaster. Luckily on Starkware, we have both. So, it's like agents can basically go on right now. You can use Paymaster to have others pay for them if you want that. You have native account abstraction, which, I mentioned solves for both post-quantum security, but also for agentic use. And this reminds me that, Illia, we probably need to be talking a lot more about how to use Starknet for a bunch of agent-related economic stuff, together with all the other stuff that we're doing, because I think there's an immense opportunity here. And gentlemen, I really love this, but I have to jump off to my next thing. So thank you so much, and really honored to be here with you guys. Take care.
Likewise, Ellie.
Nice.
Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, guys, I think that X402 concept right now is capturing a lot of mind share. People are really interested about it. People see it as like the logical step for crypto, for blockchain rails. So, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Illia, Joel, thank you guys for joining us today on this episode of AI Supercycle. Stoked for NearCon and SF. Hopefully we can do some changing of the perception around crypto there. Illia, I know you're going to spend a lot more time in SF. So, gentlemen, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
All righty, boys.
A pleasure. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Cheers.